My name is Sophia. I was 16 years old when this story began. I lived in a small town near New York City called Maplewood Hills. It was a quiet place with green hills, little shops, and one big school where all the students went. That year, I started my grade 10. We had a new teacher for literature. His name was Mr. Daniels. He was only 25 years old, but he looked very mature. He had dark blonde hair, wore glasses, and always carried a brown leather bag. He wore simple clothes, a clean white shirt, and sometimes a dark blue sweater. He looked calm and kind. His eyes were green, and when he smiled, they looked warm like sunlight. All the girls in my class noticed him on the first day. Some of them whispered and laughed during the lesson. They tried to ask silly questions to talk to him. One girl dropped her pen 3 times on purpose just to make him look at her. But Mr. Daniels was always polite. He did not get angry, but he also did not act different. He only talked about the lesson and focused on teaching. I also liked Mr. Daniels. I liked him very much, but I never joked with him or asked strange questions. I was not brave like the other girls. I was quiet, and I always sat in the second row near the window. I listened to him carefully. Every time he read something from a book, his voice made me feel peaceful. I loved reading, and Mr. Daniels made every story sound special. He was a great teacher. He didn't just ask us to read. He explained the meaning behind the words. He told us why the writer used certain sentences and why a poem felt happy or sad. He asked us to write what we felt after reading a story. I loved that. I always wrote my best, hoping he would notice. And he did. After class, he sometimes gave me back my paper and said, "Good work, Sophia." Just those words made my heart feel light. Sometimes he smiled at me in the hallway. I felt my cheeks become warm. I never missed his class. Even when I was sick, I came to school. I wanted him to see me as a good student. I wore my best clothes on the days we had his class. I brushed my hair nicely and put on a small silver ring my grandmother gave me. I was not trying to look pretty like the other girls. I just wanted to feel good about myself. I hoped he would notice that I was different. But Mr. Daniels was always the same. He was friendly, but not too close. He helped everyone in the same way. Still, when he asked me questions during class, I felt my hands shake. My heart beat very fast. But I answered, even if I was scared. And when he said, "Well done," I smiled all day. At home, I thought about him. I imagined what he liked to do after school. Did he have a cat or a dog? Did he listen to music or read in the evenings like me? I didn't know, but I wanted to find out. One day, by accident, I saw him at the grocery store with a basket full of fruit and bread. He smiled at me and said, "Hello, Sophia. Doing some shopping?" I said yes and smiled back. My hands felt cold, but I was happy the whole day after that. A week later, I saw him again in town. He was coming out of a small bookshop. He was with a man around the same age. I guessed it was his friend. They were laughing. When Mr. Daniels saw me, he waved and said hello. I waved back. I watched him walk away. I felt a strange feeling in my chest. I didn't want to see him with anyone else. Soon the school year moved on. The leaves turned brown and the wind became cold. We had a school festival, and Mr. Daniels was there too. He helped at the bookstall. I went there and bought a small storybook. He looked at the cover and said, "Good choice." I smiled and felt like I was floating, but I still couldn't talk to him like other girls. I didn't know what to say. I only said thank you and walked away. Later, I thought of many things I could have said, but it was too late. I just kept writing good essays and finishing my homework on time. Mr. Daniels gave me high grades in literature. He often wrote "very thoughtful" or "well done" on my papers. I kept them in a box under my bed. I read them again and again. Winter came. It snowed in Maplewood Hills, and school was closed for a few days. I stayed inside, reading books and thinking about Mr. Daniels. I even dreamed about him sometimes. In my dream, we were walking in the snow, talking about stories and poems. When school opened again, he was still the same, calm, focused, and kind. And I was the same, quiet, shy, and full of secret feelings. I never told anyone, not even my best friend. I knew people would laugh or say it was silly, but it didn't feel silly to me. Then one day, something changed. It was the last day before spring break. After class, Mr. Daniels told us he had some news. He was leaving our school. He got a teaching job at a university in another city. The class went quiet. Some girls looked very sad. One of them even cried. I felt frozen. I couldn't move. I just sat there, looking at him. He smiled and said he enjoyed teaching us and wished us all the best. When class ended, I walked out slowly. I didn't want to leave. I walked to the garden behind the school and sat on a bench. The trees were still bare and the ground was wet. I looked at the sky and felt like I lost something important. That evening, I walked around my neighborhood. I didn't know why, but I kept walking until I reached a quiet street. I looked around and saw a small white house with a garden. I had passed it before, but now I knew it was his house. I stood across the street and looked at the window. The light was on. I saw a shadow move inside. Maybe it was him. I didn't wait long. I turned and walked back home. That night I couldn't sleep. I thought about all the classes, the stories we read, the times he smiled at me, and how he was leaving. My chest hurt. I didn't know if I would ever see him again. I didn't say goodbye. I couldn't. It felt too hard. Before I share the rest of my story, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from? It gives me strength to know someone is hearing my words. Someone who understands me. Please tell me in the comments. I would really love to know. After Mr. Daniels left Maplewood Hills High School, everything felt different. I still went to school every day, but I was less excited. Literature class was not the same anymore. The new teacher was fine, but I didn't feel anything special. I missed Mr. Daniels's voice, his smile, and the way he explained stories. For many weeks, I kept thinking about him. Sometimes I passed by his old house on my way home, but the lights were off. A new family had moved in, and I felt strange seeing other people there. It was like the old memories were slowly fading. Time moved forward. Summer came, and school ended. I started preparing for my university entrance exams. I wanted to study English literature. I spent most of my time reading books, writing essays, and practicing grammar. My parents were very supportive. They said I had a good chance to get into a university in the city. I also joined a private English class in town. It was for students who wanted extra help for the entrance exam. The class was small, only 8 students. We met twice a week in the evening. The lessons were held in a quiet building not far from the train station. On the first day, I walked into the room and sat down quietly. I opened my notebook and looked around. A few other students were already there. Then the door opened and the teacher walked in. My heart almost stopped. It was Mr. Daniels. He looked surprised too when he saw me. But then he smiled and said, "Welcome, everyone. I'm Mr. Daniels, and I'll be your teacher for the next 6 months." I could not believe it. He was really there, just a few feet away from me. He looked a little different. His hair was shorter now, and he wore a dark jacket. But his kind green eyes were the same. My hands felt cold again, just like before. After class, he came up to me. "Sophia," he said, "it's good to see you again. You've grown." I smiled. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I moved back last month," he said. "I miss teaching high school students, so I decided to return." We didn't say much more, but that short talk made me feel warm inside. The next few weeks passed quickly. I worked very hard in his class. I answered questions, completed every assignment, and stayed after class to ask about difficult topics. Sometimes we talked for a few minutes after the lesson. He asked me about my plans. I told him I wanted to study literature. He said that was a good choice. One evening, it started raining just as class ended. I didn't bring an umbrella. I stood near the door, looking at the street. The rain was heavy. "Do you want me to walk you home?" Mr. Daniels asked. He held a large black umbrella. I was surprised. "Are you sure?" I said. "Of course," he replied. We walked slowly through the rain. The streets were quiet. The only sound was the soft tapping of rain on the umbrella. "Do you still read a lot?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Even more than before." We talked about books, school, and the future. It was the best walk I had in a long time. After that evening, he walked me home more often. Sometimes we stopped at the park. We sat on a bench and talked about stories or music. He told me about his new job, and I told him about my dreams. We laughed. I felt like we were not just student and teacher anymore. We were two people who understood each other. One Saturday, he asked if I wanted to go to the cinema. "It's an old movie, but I think you'll enjoy it," he said. I said yes. That evening, I wore a nice dress and a small necklace. We met outside the theater. He looked happy to see me. We watched the film and then walked to a small cafe. It was raining again, and the cafe lights looked golden through the window. That night, he kissed me for the first time. It was soft and gentle, and I felt like I was in a dream. After that, we spent more time together. We kept it a secret. Only I knew. I didn't tell my parents or friends. I didn't want anyone to judge us. I didn't want to lose him again. Sometimes I wondered if this was real. I was just a student, and he was older. But when we talked, it didn't feel wrong. We talked for hours and never got bored. We liked the same books and the same kind of music. I felt safe with him. I felt seen. The months passed quickly. My exams were getting close, and I studied harder than ever. Mr. Daniels helped me with practice questions. He gave me advice and told me to believe in myself. "You're a smart girl, Sophia. You can do this," he said once. Those words stayed in my mind. Then one day, everything changed. It was a warm afternoon. We were sitting on a bench in the park. He looked serious. I knew something was wrong. "I need to tell you something," he said. "I got a job offer." I looked at him. "Where?" "In the United States. A school in Boston wants me to teach literature. It's a big opportunity." I didn't speak. I just looked at the trees in front of me. "I haven't said yes yet," he added, "but it's a good chance for me." I felt my heart break slowly. I tried to smile, but I couldn't. "I understand," I said quietly. He took my hand. "I care about you, Sophia. You're very special to me. But this is important for my future." I nodded slowly. I didn't want to stop him. I wanted him to grow. But I also didn't want to lose him again. We promised to stay in touch. He said he would write to me. I said I would reply. The next few weeks were hard. We met a few more times. We talked, walked, and said goodbye again and again. On his last day, we met one final time. He gave me a book of poems with my name written inside. "Never stop writing," he said. I smiled and hugged him. Then he left. Just like that. After Mr. Daniels left for Boston, I felt empty for a while. I still went to my English classes and studied for the university exams, but something inside me had changed. My heart felt quiet, like a song that had stopped playing. We exchanged letters at first. He wrote about his new job, the school, and the city. I told him about my exam preparation and the books I was reading. Every week, I waited for his letter. I checked the mailbox every day, hoping to see his handwriting on an envelope. For the first few months, the letters came regularly. But then they started coming late. Sometimes 2 weeks passed, sometimes 3. Then one day, I didn't get a letter at all. I waited. I wrote him again, but he didn't reply for a long time. When his next letter came, it was shorter. He said he was busy, that his work took all his time. He hoped I was doing well. I read the letter again and again, but something felt different. His words didn't feel the same. They felt cold, like someone writing to a stranger. I didn't write back right away. I waited. Then, I stopped writing at all. I passed my exams and got into a university in New York City. It was a big moment for me. My parents were proud, and my friends were excited. But inside, I felt quiet. I carried the memory of Mr. Daniels like a closed book inside my heart. I didn't talk about it to anyone. University life was busy. I met new people, made friends, and studied hard. Slowly, the days passed, and Mr. Daniels became a memory. I still kept the book of poems he gave me. I didn't open it often, but I kept it safe on my shelf. Years passed. One evening, during my last year of university, I was sitting in the library. I was tired of studying, so I opened my laptop and went to a social media site. I typed his name, James Daniels, into the search bar. And there he was. His profile picture showed him standing in front of a school building. His hair was shorter now, and he had a beard. He looked older, maybe even tired. But it was him. I didn't know what to do. I sat there for a few minutes, just looking at the screen. Then I typed a short message. "Hello, Mr. Daniels. This is Sophia from Maplewood Hills. I hope you remember me." I sent it. The next day, I got a reply. "Of course I remember you, Sophia. It's nice to hear from you. How have you been?" We talked a little online. We shared what we were doing, where we were living, and how life had changed. After a few days, he asked if I wanted to meet. He was visiting New York for a conference. I said yes. We planned to meet at a small cafe near the park. I arrived early. I wore a simple dress and tied my hair back. I didn't know what to expect. I looked out the window and waited. Then I saw him. He walked in slowly, wearing a dark coat. His face looked older. He had small lines near his eyes, and he had gained some weight. His green eyes were not as bright as I remembered. "Hi, Sophia," he said with a smile. "Hi," I said. We sat down and ordered coffee. We talked about school, work, and the years in between. He told me about his job in Boston. I told him about university and my plans to become a writer. But something was missing. I didn't feel the same. He was kind, still calm and polite, but the feeling I once had was gone. The person I had loved at 16 didn't live in this man anymore. Or maybe I was not the same girl. After 2 hours, we said goodbye. He said, "It was really nice to see you." I smiled. "It was nice to see you too." That evening, I walked back to my apartment. I felt a mix of feelings, peace, sadness, and a little joy. I thought about everything we shared. It was real, but it was over. A few days later, he sent me a message. "It was nice meeting you. I hope we can stay friends." I replied, "Thank you, Mr. Daniels. I wish you all the best." We talked a little more after that. but I knew deep inside it was time to move on. 1 week later, I was walking in the park near my apartment. It started to rain. I stood under a tree and watched the drops fall. The world looked soft and quiet. I remembered the time he walked me home in the rain. I remembered the sound of his voice, his gentle smile, and the way I once felt. And I smiled. I thought, life is like rain. Sometimes it feels cold and sad, but it also helps flowers grow. It makes the earth new again. It washes away what is old and brings something fresh. I still remember Mr. Daniels sometimes, but now, when I think of him, I don't feel pain. I feel calm. He was part of my story, but he wasn't the end of it. Now, I am writing new pages. I have a job I love. I teach children how to read and write. I help them see the beauty in words, just like he once helped me. And maybe someday, someone will feel inspired in my class too. Maybe I'll be someone's favorite teacher, just like he was mine. Because life moves forward. People change. Feelings change. But memories stay with us. They teach us. They shape us. And sometimes the most beautiful stories are the ones that stay in the heart, even if they don't last forever.